Is up, everyone? Welcome to the latest episode of Power Spike. It's your boy dGon here, alongside Jamada and Yamato. I came straight after the LCK wrapped on up. It was D plus Kia versus undefeated #1 squad in Korea, KT roster. Kind of nuts that that statement is true in 2026. Also kind of nuts that there's also a team in the LEC that is undefeated, has vanquished all foes, never seen a loss, called Los Gigantes X. It's GiantX 4-0. And we start here because last week we were promised, mostly by Yamato, that we would shave our heads if GiantX qualify for MSI. And today, as of today, they had 2 more games against chumps that they needed to beat, and they did. They did their job. GiantX 4-0, undefeated in the season, currently in second place because Vitality has played more games because of the weird LEC roadshow scheduling thing. But the question is, gentlemen, are you nervous about GiantX potentially getting the job done, because they did get the job done against the teams that they were supposed to beat?
Never, brother. Let me tell you, everybody that's listening, the schedule that is coming up for them, I have it right here on my screen. Na'Vi, possible. They could beat Na'Vi. Navi's not doing super hot. Poby's doing a little bit better. You know, they're a little bit figured out. But then, Vitality, boom. Then, MKOI. And then they get G2 on the tail end. When G2 need to win to qualify the playoffs, they get to play them. And then finally, Amin Corp. All live in front of an audience. Good luck to you, bro. Good luck. Good luck to you. That's when everything will be revealed. And GX is bound to be forever mid. But if I extend... If I extend a simple olive branch, I do think Jackie's is doing better, and that's something that's been lacking. Jackie's is doing better, and maybe he can be the one to shave our heads in the end, because if he for some reason has a performance where he suddenly, you know, is one of the best mid laners in the league and he drags them over the finish line, I can see that world. But if that's not going to be the case and we get to see the more flat Jackies, the other problems are going to be right in front of us. And you know, I don't even need to start on Noah in high pressure games, how he's going to disappear and his balls are going to shrink, just, you know, like he's taking an ice bath, you know. Or I don't need to start talking about Isma throwing in the mid to late game, you know. I don't need to start talking about all these things because GX are not making MSI. I didn't need to add the sound effect, but
the sound effect was crazy, by the way. I just want to.
For those of you listening audio only, it was as wild as it sounds. Go ahead, Jamada. You're not worried about this?
I mean, not all. Yamato summed up my feelings quite well. You know, I will say it was nice to see in that Shifters game 1. It felt like just in that game, just that vacuum of a game, we got the Jackies that was promised to us in summer 2024. In that game there, like the new generation of like, hey, this guy can be a thing, like he can be good. Because, you know, we had Dom last year, obviously, throughout pretty much the entire year, just slandering Jackies, and rightfully so. Like Jackies didn't do anything gameplay wise to defend himself either. You know, you're saying Jackies wouldn't, you know, he's not going to improve. He's got the same issues, and for the most part, he's got a lot of the same issues. But if we get these moments of, okay, Jackies is switched on, he understands, you know, his windows of opportunity a little bit better, when he can actually sneak in and take things away from the enemy team, if he has to kind of do it dolo like he was this week, then, you know, there can be good things from him. But overall, like, their schedule is ridiculous, you know, like the problems are coming, and the problems are coming quick and fast. I said it last week. I think, or the week before, whenever this had, it was last week, right? So I said 5-4. They all finished 5-4. They'll sneak a win maybe off of one of the big teams, but other than that, they're gonna drop every other game. They're gonna finish 5-4. I'm pretty confident in that.
That's brutal. I feel like that's brutal because that means all the wins are here. And then, you said, Yamato, when they play in front of the live audience, they're knocking out most of their season in week 7. So they don't play in week 5 and week 6. And next week, it is that Na'Vi and Vitality 1 and 3 matchups that they have to go into. So that is a long time of losing, or maybe a long time of cooking something up in the draft. And this is just to make it to playoffs, right? This is just to slide on into one of the playoff seeds there. It is a top 6, but starting off 4-0 when right now SK Gaming is at the cutoff and they're already 2-4. They've already played 6 games. It feels like it bodes well, and there is a possibility that's my only thing there. And yes, you're right. Isma, he has that thing. He keeps spamming take notes every time he's walking around. It's annoying as fuck, but it can get into the head, right? It gets into my head as a viewer. Speaking of getting into my head, I already took my engagement photos. You see this right here? Boom. Engagement photo, full head of hair. So I already, if we end up somehow losing this series and somehow losing this bet, people won't know. I already look good. So you guys, I hope you're ready. You should take some photos just in case that Noah and June decide that they want to be elite. No? Anyone?
Nah.
I kind of want them to win, bro. Like, I feel like,
right.
dGon, you have a beautifully shaped skull.
That's how we get into this week's episode of Power
Yo,
Spike. So now that we did our check-in with GX, let's dive on into the squads that we expect, well, at least one squad that we expect to be ahead of GX, who had some hiccups this last week. It's a little bit of high-key, low-key, no-key. Who's more likely to make it to MSI? Is it G2, T1, or JDG? Let's cook, y'all. All right, so all 3 of these squads suffering losses this week. G2 with, as we say in the LCK, a bit of a whoopsie. They fell to top seed Vitality, 2-1. T1 was one of our certified bangers that ended up being a certified sleeper. Gen.G tossed him around like a rag. Pays was not him. He was not in the server. Doran's terrible year continued. And then JDG, they showed up and they beat the shit out of AL. And then they get the shit beaten out of them by top esports. So the gap feels big. That's why all 3 of them are here in high key, low key, no key. So, Jamada, let's start with you. Who do you think high key, low key, no key as the easiest path to making it to MSI? Who is most likely to make it to MSI? High key, low key, no key.
Just because sometimes the rules around the rules around high key, low key, no key kind of change contextually to the subject. One has to go in each category this time around. Yes, just for complete clarity.
That's correct. And according to the markets, there is a 62% chance that T1 will make it on in, a 47% chance that JDG will make it in, and a whopping 86% chance that G2 will make it in. So feels like there's a high probability that G2 will make it in, but how do you see it?
Man, I mean, in the context of Europe, it's hard to not believe that G2 won't just make it. Like it is such an anomaly for them to not be inside of the top 2. That it feels I have to put them high key, even compared to T1 and JDG, which we'll get onto in a sec, right? Rest of the field, obviously, a lot of the top half of the field, there's some excitement amongst the top teams, right? We've waxed lyrical about Vitality, and I think that the fans and the community have finally kind of hopped on board the hype train of Vitality, finally, even though it took a little while. With Na'Vi, I think their improvement has just generally slowed down, right? I don't want to say they've gotten worse, but I don't think they've necessarily gotten significantly better since winter. And I think that they need to just continue to try and explore and develop the things that they were working on in Split 1, where they were kind of just constantly keeping Relech on these weird jungle picks. They've, I think in every series he's played at least one game on kind of like a him, what we would now describe as a him champion. But I think more of that consistently game to game is what they need. And just kind of keep Mainta to the dog champs, like keep him there. I think if they just stay on that identity, I think they'll be solid. But then of course there's the other big dogs. There's KC. There's Movistar Koi. I think the top half is in the LEC right now there's a lot of good to talk about, but G2 to me will always just kind of prevail. I think at the end of the day, because of the way the schedule has been done, because of the road shows, they have 6 whole series still left to play. So even though it is a huge embarrassment that they lost to Fnatic, I think it's going to be one of those things where you kind of it's something you just forget as a one-off. Yeah, I think so. For me, I'm going to slam them in high key. I think they'll be top 2. Honestly, along the lines of the market, like almost 90% of the time, I would see them making top 2, even in what I think is a particularly stacked contextually top half of the LEC. For low-key, I'm going to go with JDG. I am going to go with JDG. I think that Tabe is a miracle worker. And I think even though, yes, they got the snot and piss beaten out of them in the test series, on the flip side, right, they did the exact same thing to AL, and I think the AL series was very, very impressive to kind of act as that counterbalance. And I think weighed, for me, on my mind, a little bit heavier than the Tez series, because Tez are in this weird reformation phase, right? Where they have Tian now. Jackie Love is back, obviously. The 369 thing. There's a lot of stuff going on with that team, so I think they're always going to be very volatile. And until we get a little bit more tape with them to kind of solidify in our minds where exactly this team is, a la, I want to see them play against BLG, really, which is tomorrow. As of this recording, happens tomorrow. So we'll have more answers for Tez there. I think with JDG, they've just shown us they can be an incredibly high ceiling team. They're but like mechanically, from top to bottom, very, very impressive. I think that Junja, the kind of the overall narrative that Junja is a bit of a troll. Like he's just very aggressively throwing games at times because he doesn't know when to stop. It's like when he's 2,000 gold ahead, he feels like he needs to press the advantage. When he's even, that I feel like that's kind of died off, and he's thinking a little bit more about the decisions he's making in jungle pathing and the relation to lanes. So I think for me, compared to the rest of that top half of the field, where I'm looking at IG, there's a lot of hype on IG, for example. This hype will die down, man. Like, I don't get me wrong. I like that Breathe is on that lineup now. Renard has come in and he's held his own, thank God, against Karis and Care, right? And like he was effectively a passenger versus Cream for the most part, right? Didn't really do much for more of that series than he did things. So I think that IG hype is gonna die down. I think that's just kind of remnants of the old kind of the shy rookie era of more recent hype, and I can see JDG just slipping into top 2 like a glove again alongside BLG. So they're my Loki. So that leaves T1 my Noki, and I think that's more to do with the rest of the field in Korea again. KT have come in, and it feels as though, like on a narrative level, Perfect is trying to just I don't know. It feels almost as if he's trying to make up for World's Finals. Like series after series, he's just trying to make up for World's Finals last year. This guy is playing out of his mind. BDD is back to BDD form as well. Those two in Game 3 of DK today, pretty much. I mean, they got it across the line, right? That's the bottom line of that series. It was very messy, but it was the Nefiri top of all things, out of Perfect, into Varus top, which got it done. So I think that KT now are looking like a team again that are scary in very similar ways to how they were looking scary in the back end of 2025, but even more so with a bit of added flexibility potentially through Perfect, which I think is a big deal. I'm not so worried about Gen.G, right? I think Gen.G, I'm always gonna be. It's always analytically the correct thing to do to lump hope in Gen.G, especially domestically. So yes, there have been some crazy bumps in the road. Losing the series to DK and getting 2-0'd at that is obviously a big shock to the system, more so than losing to KT. But to say that all of a sudden this team is going to be bad, etc., and they're not going to make top 2, I think is an overreaction out of 4 series. I think for T1, a lot of their issues are still present, and that's kind of my big concern. And a lot of that does lie in draft priorities. It does lie in what they think the version of League of Legends is right now, right? And on top of that, I just don't think mechanically most of this lineup is performing well. And I think the important players, typically when T1 go through slumps, like Ona, as an example, have not consistently shown that same high level that they typically do when they go through those slumps.
Yeah. Yamato, what do you make of Jamada's lineup here? And then you can give us your take here.
Yeah, I'm in agreement. I do think G2 is the high key, GG the low key, and T1 the no key. I think that the big detail here is how unique the formats are in relation to the level of play. The uniqueness of course, the LCK format, that it's still, like, we are so far from it being finished because it's a double round robin of best of 3s. We're going to have so much more volume of games until we have things determined. And then at the same time, the road to MSI, if you have a slow start and you're behind on points in the best of 3 format now, you might just be fighting for one spot, because only the top 2 teams in the LCK are going to be able to fight for the number 1 seed, because for some reason we have no finals in spring.
The finals is like weirdly the upper bracket finals, semi-finals rather. Like it's fantastic stuff.
It's a bit goofy, but that's what it is, right? So we're going to have a circumstance where, let's say, HLE and KT, maybe they are not the best 2 teams at the end of the split, but maybe they just have to have the most points, like things stand now. Then suddenly there's a world where maybe a Gen.G that is slumped and kind of ramp up, or similar to T1, maybe they face each other in that long gauntlet that happens for the second spot. And I think that in itself, beyond the actual like team matchups that can occur in the head-to-heads, that's also like a danger that you need to kind of estimate for, because T1 tend to be a team that slowly ramp up, just like they did last year, when they, for the majority of Spring Split, looked quite bad, where they were losing to BFX when they were way weaker than they are now. But then, of course, we had the 3-0 versus HLE after HLE got reverse swept. There is an element of that could happen, but I do think that the field is very dangerous right now in comparison to, for example, JDG, where them dropping series right now, in terms of what the LPL format is, the top 8 teams that currently playing in the top group, they get to play a BO5 against the lower end teams, whether that's Ultra Prime or Thunder Talk. Sure, there's some teams there like Thunder Talk, for example, that might bring some level of a spark, but I doubt that these teams are ever not going to qualify into playoffs. So the contrast here is that you having a lower seed in the LCK is far more impactful than you having a lower seed in LPL, because you just end up in the upper bracket, 8 teams, they play against each other. You play against a tougher opponent, but you have a double elimination. And JDG, I still think in terms of their good games, they are so high level in comparison to everybody else that I don't mind them dropping series, akin to how BLG might have dropped series in, of course, the win the split. Like in the end, what happens in playoffs is what matters. And JDG, even though they lost one series in the EWC qualifier, they managed to beat BOG. EWC qualifier was, of course, online, so people might think it's less important and less impactful, which I could see by the gameplay that it was a little bit up in the air. But still, JDG is probably the only team right now that has it in them to beat BOG in the right way. I think that the teams around them are going through honeymoon phases and at the same time also growing pains because a lot of the teams around them have restructured, whether that's Weibo with a new support or IG with pretty much a completely new roster. We have, the return of like legends in Tian and Jakilov and Mako, and they are performing really, really well, which is super fun to watch. But I do think that these teams have catching up to do before they are capable of beating JDG or BOG in a best of 5. And I think the format is going to allow them to drop these best of 3s on occasion. And then finally to G2 in the format discussion, I do think that there could be a danger that if they don't win like all of the next series and end up like at a 7-2, or for some reason they don't make the cutoff to be top 4, then they end up starting in the lower bracket and they need to win every series back to back. And that's something that they could do, right? G2 still has the winner's DNA when it comes to the LEC. They have a very high ceiling in terms of level of play. And I think that they can manage that pressure no problem. But I do think that's something to pay attention to. But still, I can't imagine teams winning against G2 right now in a BO5 unless it is the team that has made it all the way through the upper bracket and they meet in the finals, which still means G2 being a top 2 team in Europe. So I think it's a very, very tough ask to see a world where G2 don't make it with some of the flaws of the other teams. KC could have that high, Vitality could continue on a roll, but I still think G2, their winter split looked exactly like this. And it's maybe even worse, because here they are 1 and 2, they still have 6 matches more to play, and losing against Vitality is no shame. Against Fnatic, big shame. But that's where I'm at.
Just couple points here. As the guys both have referenced, EWC have had online qualifiers. Generally, except I think for LPL where they had for the Nirvana teams, they had like a qualifier for 2 seeds. It's double elimination brackets all the way through. Double elimination brackets series, online series here for EMEA, North America, South America, APAC, China, and Korea. And so different regions are having those matches every now and then. I think there was a tweet by Papa Smithy that he was going back to casting to cast FlyQuest versus Team Liquid. FlyQuest did win their EWC qualifier first round match. And they're a couple wins away for qualifying. So that is how those seeds are being done, because the tournament has expanded to include some more teams than years past, plus the previous champion. So they found a way to get the qualifiers on in, which gives us a better insight on how these teams will do because of the extra matches that they have. But I find it interesting that we haven't seen T1 falter in these qualifiers or in internationals yet, compared to we saw, no G2 at first stand last year, right? When KC snuck on in there. And so I'm like, all right, the team that has been the most consistent making it to other tournaments other than first stand last year is the one that is still figuring it out. And that's the one that we're doubting a little bit more. I think there's something special about when T1's backs are against the wall and they find a way to get it done. But a lot of your reasoning is usually, analytical with the eyes and of current. So my question to the audience is, do you agree with our analysts who are in agreement for once with their high key, low key, no key, making it to MSI? The high key being G2, the low key being JDG. and the no key being T1. Let us know in the comments below. And while you're there, make sure to like and subscribe here at Last Free Nation, as we are pumping out content across the esports spectrum, and you don't want to miss any of it. All right. Now, before we dive on into a couple more teams that have had some struggles, it's time to remind you about our friends over at Drip Drop. Now, lately, I've realized that when my energy dips or I feel a little bit off, it's usually hydration related. Not sleep, not coffee, hydration. That's why Drip Drop is my go-to fix. Now, Drip Drop is doctor-developed, proven fast hydration that helps your body and mind work better, which is exactly what your 2026 needs. Think about support for busy days, long workouts, and everything in between. Drip Drop uses science-based formulas for rapid hydration so you feel results fast while getting 3 times the electrolytes of leading sports drinks. Now, Drip Drop is also trusted by firefighters, medical professionals, and over 90% of top college and pro sports teams because it's engineered to hydrate you faster and more effectively than water alone. Perfect if your New Year's goals include better habits that actually stick. And as Jamada can tell you, Drip Drop has dropped Zero Sugar Plus, a breakthrough formula with an advanced blend of 6 key electrolytes, 15 essential vitamins and nutrients, and no sugar or artificial sweeteners. There are 16 original flavors and 8 Zero Sugar Plus options that fit seamlessly into your routine, whether it's the morning, pre-workout, post-workout, or a midday slump. Jamada, let the audience know what they're missing out on.
Dude, yesterday I went to the gym with my brother. He is 89 kilos lean. I didn't have a fun time. It was a 45-minute workout. We basically took no breaks. I didn't have Drip Drop on me until I got home. Let me tell you, when I got home, I ran to the cupboard. Drip Drop. Yeah, Drip Drop saved my life last night. I was cooked until I had that. I was finished. The water alone was not doing me any favors in the gym. Definitely helped me feel a lot better even waking up today. Normally, when I had a bit of a hiatus from the gym, woke up today, not as bad in the recovery. Maybe it's just day one and I'm lucky. Maybe tomorrow will beat my behind. But Drip Drop last night gave me all of the energy back. It was the return, the fantastic return of that energy for me. So Drip Drop is my go-to for energy. Take it wherever you need it. And I felt bad for not taking it with me when I went to the gym last night. Thankfully, I got it back in my system afterwards.
That's right. Good on Jamada for having his Drip Drop with him, but not taking it before he went there. So right now, Drip Drop is offering podcast listeners 20% off your first order. Go to dripdrop.com and use promo code LFN. That's dripdrop.com, promo code LFN for 20% off. Stock up now at dripdrop.com and use promo code LFN. Thanks to our friends over at Drip Drop. How are you going to do the hard work and forget to take it beforehand, Jamada? That's dumb.
Dude, I don't know, okay? It was a quick one. It was like, yo, Adrian, come to the gym. I was like, yes, big brother, no problem. On my way. And, it was get dressed, get out. And I forgot it.
Wait, your name is Adrian?
Yeah.
Adrian! No.
Did that one go over dGon's head? I hope not.
How many times have you heard that?
You know what? Not as many times as you'd like to imagine.
Really?
Great movies.
Yeah.
If he dies, he dies.
If he dies, he dies. Oh my God. All right. Producer doofing around here in the back as we move on to our next segment. It's time for a little bit of fraud alert. We haven't been going hard in the paint. We got 3 teams that dropped some series. One of them I know is about to get cooked. Our 3 teams in fraud alert this week: Gen.G, Fnatic, and Invictus Gaming, formerly Undefeated Invictus Gaming. Let's dive into it and see how fraudulent these guys are. Yamato, let's start with you. Give us your rating for Gen.G, who is Yeah, give us your rating for Gen.G.
Honestly, Gen.G. You know, it's like the only thing that is holding me back is that we won't be able to really tell until they're really out, you know. But losing to D plus, I don't know. It's like I dislike Beryl as a player so much that I still dislike D plus post his time.
Oh my!
I don't think you're alone in that assessment, brother. I'm not gonna lie. I think there's some residue hate still for them from a lot of people.
It's just D plus in this matchup here. Like when I see that draft, it's like we've created this this negotiation process in our mind for Gen.G's drafts. It's like, oh, they can get away with it because it's them. But then all those layers of the onion have been kind of peeled away, and all we get sometimes is tears because the Pike and the Rise and the Kesante, these are all champions that are not performing good at all. Keen Sante and Duro picking Pike in a game 5. These are things of old because that draft was goddamn awful. And it highlights further and further how somehow like two magnets of the same poles are just in Duro and of course Canyon. They just refuse to be on the same screen. And to do that against D plus, as like I thought you'd get away with it against D plus because Career, he's struggling on the team, Lucid, his name is so ironic because sometimes this guy is playing like as if he's dreaming and he's Superman on the Rift. But somehow in this series, I'm watching Sheo, look like Perfect did 2 weeks ago. I don't know what's happening. They're passing the baton of who suddenly has like the best performance of their lifetime, in these key matches. I did think losing against D plus, especially with the form that D plus showed, is like, what did D plus lose against? They lost against Bro right before. Who did they lose against? They lost against one of the bottom feeders. Now let me pull that up if you guys can't help me out here.
QM DRX.
Oof. That's not permissible. It's like, so by connection, you gotta abolish yourself, whoever made these drafts for Gen.G, because this team no longer has that aura, no longer has that shield. I don't know if Rio and BFX, before this season started, they made like some kind of deal with the devil. It's like, all right, I will go over to Gen.G, I will win a split and blah, 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 blah. And that's going to be my curse. And then BFX and that trade, you want to join in on this deal with the devil? And they all just like did a deal with the devil for this one win to split to just all fall apart now in spring, because now this whole, impact of Rio on this team, I'm beginning to focus on that because that was the change for Gen.G, right? That was the change. It was supposed to, things were supposed to look different, but it's just more of the same, if not even worse of the same. But I'm not going to give them a full-blown 10 out of 10, but losing against D plus is pretty damn ugly. So I'm going to give them a 7 out of 10. Just come on, Gen.G, you're better than this. Even at your worst, you're better than this.
7 out of 10. Also, to correct, it was against Hanwha Life Esports, who got bodied by T1 before that week. So it felt like D plus were down and out because they already lost to the team that lost to T1, who was already struggling. And then they showed up and 2-0'd the first victory by Showmaker and D plus Kia in 5 years against Gen.G. First time in 22 attempts, and they get it done. 7 out of 10 for Yamato. Jamada, what do you make of it?
See, I want to be more lenient on Gen.G, and I think I'm going to be just purely because I still think they are the best team in the world. Maybe not right now in current form, obviously, right? At the 2-2 standing, goes without saying.
Defend that. I just defend that a little bit. Because I agree with a lot of Yamato's points of they're struggling. You're supposed to bring in Ryu with good drafts. He had good drafts during the LCK Cup, and then that's not it now. But you still think they're the best team in the league. or in world.
I think what they're potentially employing is the T1 strategy, right?
Oh,
What they're potentially employing is the T1 strategy. Maybe it's finally time to stop caring about. Well, as Chovy said, you care about every competition you participate in.
That's right.
But you perhaps do a little bit of trolling, and if you don't win, it's not the end of the world. As long as you switch on at the right time, because it's been how many years in a row, back to back to back to back, not switching on at the right time for Gen.G, or at the pinnacle of the calendar. And so you know what? Hey, if this narratively is the strategy that they want to employ, then as long as we're in the circle of performing, norming, and storming, right? Let's say they're in storming right now. As long as they return to norming, let's say at the end of Spring Split. For those unaware of the, I should probably actually explain that concept. Storming, norming,
What the fuck is norming and storming? What are we talking about, man?
Yeah. So let me explain this concept. When you're in team settings, teams tend to go through. I think in the whole cycle, it's technically like 5, but it's kind of like a circle where there's a start here, and then you go in, and then you're in this loop until you end. But like the actual circle itself is made of 3 points, which is norming, storming, and performing.
Oh.
Norming is your standard level of play, right? Your standard of your regular standard of achievement. Where, let's say in Gen.G's case, their norming is top 2 inside of the LCK.
Apparently, it's losing to D+.
Well, no. Their storming is losing to D+. Their norming is typically top 2 inside of the LCK, right?
So peaks and slumps, bro. Why are you inventing new words here, bro?
It's not inventing new.
You're doing the British tactic on us, like using fancy lyrics and
norming, storming, and warming.
All right. But
global warming.
Obviously, you guys understand what I'm saying here, and I just wanted to make sure that for the audience, it's clear for them. Right? Norming would be that. Storming would be, yes, dropping games to bottom feeder teams or losing series to teams that they would typically beat. What was the record, dGon? I know it's probably burned into your brain. You had to do it for prep. It was like 20 series in a row, not lost to DK.
21 losses in a row. This was the 22nd Northern Excursion, as they call it in Korea, because in Korea, they've got the Chinese, the ancient China kingdoms, the warring kingdoms, and the one that was Eastern tried to conquer the northern one so that then they could conquer the southern one. And they tried time after time after time after again until the Eastern Kingdom fell because they kept trying to conquer the north. That was Gen.G and D+, but Showmaker got it done.
Dynasties. And then storming, obviously, mega underperforming to the norming standards. And I think Gen.G are just somewhere in that storming phase right now, right? The game-to-games aren't looking as clean. The drafts there's a lot more question marks draft to draft. Obviously, from the coaching perspective, things have changed drastically. And I think that to a degree, we have seen, some pretty tangible change, right? I think that overall, the cohesion of drafts, I think, have always been very clear from Gen.G for a long time. And I think as of late, yes, there have been occasional drafts where you might look at a game and think to yourself, obviously the Pyke example is a good example. Even in that, there is some semblance of a potential game plan in that. But game to game, I think there are examples where you can look at it and go, what is this team actually supposed to do? Right? Think comically, even the game that they won where they had the Varus top, it was just pretty much like lane dominance. But if they didn't win those lanes, that composition was not going to do anything. I think it was Varus, Pantheon, Azir, right? And I can't remember the bot lane off the top of my head. But that was a composition entirely designed to basically just dominate lane and pray that the lead is big enough, because otherwise the other composition is going to be easier to pilot. It's going to be the conditions to achieve successful team fights would have been easier. But yeah, I think those are the big issues for Gen.G. My fraud alert rating, to finally give them a rating so I can stop rambling, is probably a little bit closer to a 4, maybe a 5, if I was to be harsh. Simply because I have a lot of faith in Gen.G to simply bounce back. But yes, losing to DK is as big as a problem as it looks, depending on how they struggle against the Bros. If they struggle against the Bros, which I doubt they will. And then subsequently, obviously, HLE.
Just to 5.
Just to add as well, I'm in agreement that if Gen.G was in the high key, low key, no key segment, probably I put Gen.G higher than I would G2 right now, even, in terms of them bouncing back. I just think losing to D plus in the way they did is not permissible. Like, even if it doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things.
It's very haram. No, I agree. Like I do agree.
It's kind of like G2 losing to Fnatic is on the same grade to me as Gen.G losing to D plus the way they did.
That's a good analogy. I like
that's a great analogy. 7 out of 10 for Yamato, 5 out of 10 for Jamada. We then move to the LPL, where we had one of our, I guess, false undefeateds. They were beating up on a bunch of the other teams and caught a top esports straight off of the beginning of the season in the middle of their first stand slump. It's Invictus Gaming. Now, IG, an interesting team you haven't been following along, they substitute out rookie, long time Atlanta for the squad, been there for a while, obviously had a stint, I think, with NIP for a bit, then came back, was spotted in Korea with his new girlfriend, which was like a whole thing too, because he was in a long-term relationship with like one of the LPL hosts. It was like 9 years. He made a post about it. And so Renard comes in since the beginning of the season. They rifle off 3 wins. He has looked good. He hasn't looked bad. He's been able to hold his own here, and gets the ball in game number 1 against Weibo. Gets the Cassiopeia against the Rise. 8-2-8 against Xiaohu. And then they basically win game 2. They win a big team fight. They push. They try to end the game. And they're 2 autos away from killing the Nexus. I went back and watched that replay, I think, like 5 times to see if there was more optimal auto attacks when the towers went down. There wasn't. But there was a big knock up by, what was it? Jarvan, I think, or someone knocked up the auto attackers, which was a Jin, which isn't great for ending a game. He has to then spend it on his auto attack on the Jarvan, not the tower. 2 auto attacks away. They proceed to lose that game and then lose the game after that. They lose the series. They take their first loss. How fraudulent is it that this squad, who's under pressure to win games against teams that are good, the experienced teams, the big group of teams in the LPL, drop a series that way against IG? Jamada, let's start with you.
Thank you for tapping me in here first. It's not fraudulent at all. It's not fraudulent at all. Listen, this team, in the very same way that, like, all right, let me tell you where the hype's coming from.
All right, where's the hype coming from?
Stay with me.
Okay.
In the same way that Son has convinced an entire generation of South Koreans to be a fan of Tottenham Hotspur, I am convinced Kadril has done the same thing to a generation of LoL fans with IG, simply because the Shy was there. I'm telling you now, this team is exactly where it needs to be, right? When you look at the record, when you look at the teams they played NIP, WE, and top esports, like you highlighted. Okay, the top esports, you can point towards, again, that top esports are in this reformation phase where they've got all of these players back in. We don't know how good they're going to look until they actually play real top teams, or all of the top teams, right? At least one round robin. For Renard, what he's done this to Care and Karis. Yeah. He's passengered series against Care and Karis. And then, even against Cream, he held his own, did his thing. Like, I'm sorry, I'm not overhyped on this team, and I think that's why people are maybe a bit shocked, or like, oh my god, this team is going to be good. No, I think they'll be 4th, 5th, like 4th ceiling, 6th most likely. So I think right now, I don't think they're like crazy frauds for dropping this game here against Weibo, right? Yes, Weibo are 0-3. Yes, Weibo look dookie. But Weibo have this is the Witches team. This is the Black Magic team. This is they've been this way since 2023. It's what they do. It's what this organization is manufactured to do, is just to upset narratives. So for me, losing this series here is not a big deal. I am excited for IG just because of the nature of, you know, I think Breathe has been jailed on so many poor performing rosters over the years, as an example, that I feel like this might be a breath of fresh air for him. I feel like Jarchi is someone that I can get very excited about off of his time on top Esports. And now that he's got Mako with him, I think that could be an exciting pairing. So I think this team just needs time to develop. I'm not high on this fraud this fraud check for me. I'm at like worst case a 2. Like I think they're performing exactly as I would expect them to perform.
Damn. I was seeing if I could get it with the context there, but Jamada's cut through it. Yamato, what do you make of it?
I think in terms of what the roster is supposed to be, I think you can't really ask for more in terms of the level of play. I think that IG, like especially with Mako's return, I think Mako has been like one of the best performing supports in the whole league with his return, which is super nice to see. I think considering they don't have their mid laner Renard, like I do think that as coming in as a rookie in the mid lane position is going to be the hardest thing to do. No matter where you are, I think that's just the role that carries the most amount of experience in comparison to any role.
Right now, as well. In this meta, I think is even harder than normal. I think. Sorry to cut in, but I just want to say I think it's even harder than normal because it's support jungle and they're playing around mid. That is like the best version of League of Legends, I think, right now in this meta. Sorry, Amar.
And with that added, right, and with that being said, I do think on that front, I think they're doing a great job. In terms of them being so high up in the standings so early on, like if people are just opening and tuning into the standings, them being like undefeated there for a while, like if someone tells you, oh damn, IG's undefeated, they're so good, rookies wash, never come back. On that front, that image is quite fraudulent. So it depends on what you want to grade them on. I do think in terms of achieving as much success as possible with the current roster, I think it's a great start. Breathe looks good. Mako looks fucking fantastic, and on that front, I don't think they are frauds. But the scoreline, in terms of how some people might read it, that's quite fraudulent. So, what do you want the rating on, dGon?
No. I want you to decide. That was the whole point of sticking them in here, because this core of the roster, right? Breathe, Jackie, Mako, Renard, 10 games together only. Wei is the only one coming back on over from the beginning of Split 1. And so to me, when I'm like, man, you were 2 autos away and you need to maximize as many wins as you get, or like, that's how I see it. It could be fraudulent. Or do you see it as this is developmental? They don't even have their starting mid laner. Pretty okay. Here's a 2 because, you know, you were 2 autos away. Like, how do you see it?
I'm going to give them a 2 like just because I'm waiting for Rookie to come back. Like just let me see this roster with Rookie. He gets to have a good team. God bless. See you, Renard. Apparently that means fox in French. I don't know where some of these players get their names from. I'm so confused. Renard, like he sounds like a butler, you know, but he's been doing fine. I just want Rookie.
He's got a mustachy twirls, man. He's got a mustachy twirls and everything when he's got the little plate in his hand with the drinks.
He's playing. That's fucking scheduled Monopoly Sundays, 100%. You know, like so I'm gonna give him a soft 2.
Shit. Soft 2. Well, we'll see what happens with IG. They've got 2 huge matches later on in this week. Good luck against Knight and Cream. IG versus BLG and Top Esports back to back as well. LPL with some tough scheduling. Same things happens at JDG.
Yo, dGon, I just have a question. Jamada, how about we do a fraud alert on Lion only for you?
Okay. You know what? I'm glad. You know what? I'm so happy you took this angle because you know what I wanted to do? I was going to say, fuck Fnatic. We need to talk about C9, man. We need to talk about C9. But you know what? With Lion, let's just go there for a second. Oh my God. This is bad. This is very, very bad. Like, look, I know, like, for the sake of the bet, I took the Lion stance, and I'll stand on that. Like that was my genuine opinion in the moment, and until the conclusion of the bet. But fuck me, lads, what is going on? Like, there is such a tangible regression right now in the level of play in the LCS from them that I don't really know where to begin. The drafts are significantly more all over the place. It feels like, at least from the C9 to Dig, Whiplash, they didn't really prep inherently for both of those opponents as individual teams, if that makes sense. In the same way where it was very clear when you looked at their series matchups in playoffs, it was obvious how they prepped for TL and then how they prepped for C9 in finals and whatnot, right? I'm not seeing any of that right now. Now, of course, it's playoffs, so it's regular season, so you can make arguments. Maybe there's they're not doing the same level of prep in best of threes compared to best of fives, etc. But I think it's such a lazy excuse to even try and make an argument like that. Their level of play has just been piss poor, and especially when you look over at the other side in the first game against C9. C9 were trying to lose for you guys, man.
Yeah.
They were trying to lose for you guys, and you still couldn't get it across the line. I don't know. It's quite abysmal. And then dropping a game to Dig. Dropping a game to Dig with Palagenius. Nah. High. Very, very, very high. Like,
What's the number?
It's a 10. I think obviously you can say the typical excuse, oh, they've come back from first and they're on the international slump. But the level that they demonstrated to me domestically was something indicative of a team that I believed had a significantly higher floor than I've seen them come back at. Now, of course, if playoffs roll around and they return back to that form, my worries can stop. Or they can at least be caged up again. But what I've seen out of these opening series from Lion is nothing short of disappointing. Nothing short of very, 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 very disappointing.
Yeah. Well, I think what we need is the fan favorite Yamato impression of the voice comms in that game. Yamato, please take it away. Bring us through that game number one.
What are you doing? I don't know what happened. I don't remember what happened in the game anymore. I just wrote that moment. But Corky, you just have to zone them. What are you doing? I'm allowed to do this because I'm half foolish.
Oh,
so yeah. And just to add to help Jamada out here, because just to pat my own back, I like the entire LCS 10 out of 10.
Oh, bro, it's been fucking horrendous, the level of play in the LCS these opening 2 weekends, man. Like,
I'll say from the chest, I'll say it from the chest, yo.
Yep.
When I said that Lion would lose to 4 LEC teams, I think it's still true. I think C9 will currently, my boy Dom, that team will lose to 4 or 5 LEC teams currently. It is rough. And I don't know what the saving grace will be. I really don't know what the saving grace will be. I'm looking at FlyQuest. At least FlyQuest, they're looking a little bit
that's
better.
what I wanted to say.
Maybe that's the whole.
That's the only one, because FlyQuest, Griffin was the one that you faded, and he won. He died once.
And the problem for them is they play C9 and Lion. I think it's their last matchups of the regular season. They did play TL in the EWC qualifier. I've not watched the games, so I don't know how they played out, but they won.
2-1.
They won 2-1. Yep. And obviously they lost 2-1 on stage in the LCS. So it's very apparent these two teams are obviously very close to each other. Which does make me wonder how as we progress through the season, what this top 4 inside the LCS is going to look like. In terms of its ordering, because I think the likely teams in the top 4 now are the teams that will finish top 4, right? Like TL, Lion, C9, and FlyQuest. But the ordering, I think, is going to be the big thing.
Well, what I value is that teams make games boring. Like, handle your business. Handle your business, and FlyQuest are handling their business. You're right. The strength of schedule is going to be tougher later on, but they handled the business. Team Liquid handled their business against Shopify. Remember, in last week, Shopify handled Dignitas like they were business, and then Dignitas gave Lion the run. So I agree with your fraudulency scale here. And then Cloud9, again, Sentinels, that was rough. All right, sorry, Yamato. Yamato. I cut you off. Go ahead, Yamato.
No. I just wanted to say, like I'm gonna plant a seed. I've been planting the seed for a couple of months now, even last year. But I'm telling you, the moment Inspired moves over to Europe, what will happen with the LCS? Because in that moment, like let's say me and Thor were talking about it. We would say, let's say Masu joins Koi next year. Why not? Koi needs a new ADC. Supa has no maneuverability. Masu's a player that's shown very high highs. Maybe Masu goes over to Europe. Maybe Yeon goes over to Europe. What are you left with? Tell me, brother, what are we left with? I really don't know what we're left with if Inspired also leaves. That's the tricky part about the LCS, bro. Like the fraudulency alert goes deeper than just the current level of play. Like I am worried about the future of this league because I don't like we are heading off a cliff. That's what's happening. Like it's really, really tough.
Jamada, final thoughts?
I'm kind of glad we tangented here and went to NA because in chronological order, we were supposed to do Fnatic here.
Yeah.
For this fraud alert. And I will say is it whiplash if your head is spun 360 degrees around and your neck is snapped having to watch C9 Sentinels into SK Fnatic? Like, what do you call that at that point? Is it just murder? Is it just like, is it self-harm? Like, thank God we didn't touch on Fnatic because if
we're gonna touch on Fnatic.
Do you remember the age-old meme? It's like when people said Xbox 360 is called Xbox 360 because you move 360 degrees away and walk away. And obviously people didn't know that that's a fucking full circle. But that's basically watching LCS and then you go 360 and then fucking Fnatic SK. Because my brother, Fnatic, this organization has just been on complete fraud alert for the longest time ever, and this just seems to seep into every element of play because it's even now at this point, the only thing that I keep asking myself is that I feel so much in pain because I want to see Razok on a different team, bro. I wish you'd left this team 2-3 years ago. I wish to see Upset on a different team because there's obviously qualities there and this environment that Fnatic has fostered and the people that are, the silver lining, the line that always falls through ever since the beginning of the Fnatic downfall. The upper managers are still there. So it's like, what are we doing? What is the saving grace here? Because at this point, this is like the dark arts teacher at Hogwarts, it's like, who the hell wants to join Fnatic if not to just doom their career? And in terms of what the offseason, how it went down, it's like the Vladi move, I could understand it, because in terms of the, potential, what he showed on KC, it was good.
Yep.
But also, in hindsight now, the arrogance to think that your environment's going to be better for the boy is also crazy. And then he got to choose bringing in Empiros when there was a lot of top lanes on paper that looked better. And now you are dealing with the aftermath of that. And it's also one of those things. Like Fnatic is the microcosm in the LEC that represent what the LCS currently is. So Fnatic, 10 out of 10 for me, man. I've been talking a lot. You take it away, Jamada.
Can we break the scale? Go on.
I was gonna say, yes, you can break the scale, but not quite because the microcosm doesn't finish yet with Inspired, right? If we're talking about roster building and picking for next year, because they're under contract for next year. And remember, Isles and Dokla, they're fighting for that spot, and Isles is stealing Dokla's spotlight right now. So next year, we could be like, this is like Fnatic last year. But otherwise, you're mostly right. A lot of these teams, the guys have been together for such a long time. Maybe Team Liquid is another one that's a little uniquely there. But Morgan came on in. Maybe that was like a Core DJ Morgan connection. I'm not sure. how that one works out. But Fnatic with a lot of problems, as the markets say, according to Poly Market, there is a less than 1% chance that Fnatic are the LEC spring winner. And that is after they had the upset victory last week. We're back. We know how good we can be. We know we can be one of the best teams in LEC. And then we shit the bed.
Honestly, 1% is generous. That shit is generous, bro.
I agree. Yeah, man, it's just time to disband. I don't know what to say. There's no polite way to go about it. And Yamato covered like on the individual level, there are obvious qualities inside of Razork, inside of Upset, where it's like, you know, let's say you put Razork on GX. That could be a real team all of a sudden. That could be a real team to me, right? Upset could slot into any bloody team he wants in the league, as long as it's one that's competing for the top, and he will aid in that campaign. He will. So I struggle to look at this build, and we did it at the start of the year. We spoke about this off season, right? I think one of our high key, low key, no keys was off season moves, and if memory serves me right, I no keyed Laddie.
Yeah, you did.
And I no keyed him for a good reason. And all of the additional things now have come into effect where it's like, oh, it's the environment. Oh, it's, very clear that this team is not functional compared to the other significantly stronger builds and projects that have come along and developed since the beginning of the year as well. And whether you want to talk about the environment, whether you want to talk about, from a staff perspective, right? There was the Grabs thing in I think the end of February where they were saying, Grabs was saying, we're under resourced. We don't have these big
Short
support staffs to come and support us, right? In the things that we need. I can't really say anything pleasant about this Fnatic lineup, unfortunately. There isn't really a saving grace to it. There isn't a silver lining. This organization has just systematically fielded now for several years, with some vacuum high moments, of course, right? Where they've made it to finals of playoffs. I think it was it not winter 24? Was it spring 24? I want to say there was a time they made it very, very deep. They've made deep runs at times, but in between those deep runs have been you've just been in the mud, in the trenches, and I feel like there's never been hope. And the second that hope has re-entered the Fnatic family body, it's been violently ripped out of the chests immediately. So yeah, I don't know, the level of play. I think it speaks for itself, right? Even in beating G2, which is their only series win so far this split, was anybody inherently impressed with Fnatic? Being intellectually honest with ourselves, was it an impressive win, or was it more impressive that G2 managed to lose? I managed to not keep their shit together, right?
It was more that one.
Was it the SK games, like, dude, I don't want to go over the edge. I really don't. But it's hard not to get angry looking at Fnatic as a legacy org inside of the league, with the very, very tracked and storied issues that they've had, to not have them fixed on a consistent level this far in, I think is shameful. It's shameful. And I think that's now starting to reflect in their results, where realistically, I don't think this version, if they keep this lineup into summer, they'll go bottom 2. They'll do some nonsense like that. I can see that happening. I can see them finishing 9th, 10th this year.
How did they,
that's the reality that they face.
I think Fnatic, to save it, they either need some crazy voodoo, or they need like some perfect alignment with the stars, maybe religion, or when possible in an off season, get inspired. He's the fixer. Just get inspired. Throw money at him. But I think Fnatic don't have money either, so it's like it's just cooked. It's just cooked. Maybe it's bro. It's like the craziest part about Fnatic as an organization is just that. Like I think it's just Boaster is just carrying this org. You know, he's just like
Fucking positivity, the embodiment of positivity and
the
love.
Valorant squad is like performing and they're like always in contention, always in the conversation. Bro, the day they lose Boaster, bro, like it's done, bro. It's done. That's the scary one. When that happens, GG, bro.
Yeah, man. From a business perspective, they need to just try and find a franchise player that they can really stick with and develop, and they can't do it with Laddie.
They thought it was Razork and Humanoid. They were together for such a long time. They were the quarreling.
Well, we've seen now the difference between Humanoid in an environment where he wants to blow his shit smooth off and an environment where he's enjoying himself, right? Like, I think it's pretty night and day, isn't it, lads?
It's also, just to add, just looking at Fnatic's history, that's the craziest part because everything changed suddenly. Like Fnatic's history was they were very fortunate to have the SOAS Peke roster, right? And they won the first World Championship and they had really insane players. They invested really early on into Reckless, right? Even when he was, too young to play the LEC, they made sure that, the ADC they have now, it's like this is going to be just a transition period. And then even in the world where Fnatic, in that offseason, 2014 moving into 15, they lost Peke, SOAS, they lost Reckless to Alliance. Even there, they found like really, really insane players in Huni and Reignover. And then Feb even as well, that came from, I think, the C9 roster that was in Europe at the time. And then always along the line, whenever there was, underperformances or they didn't have like a clear future of where the team was heading, like 2016, they went with the Spirit Gamsu roster. Instantly, next one, they found this rookie talent in the name of Caps. And then they pushed forward. And they lost Caps 2018, which is a fucked up thing to do, and they found Nemesis. Like, they were very, very aggressive in moving on. But then somewhere along the line, they got boggled in the trenches. And it's like the Fnatic that I competed against during that time, and then when I joined Fnatic, I was like...
How long has Dado been on Fnatic for? When did Dado when did Dado enter the picture?
You can look it up.
When did Dado... Did dGon go get the numbers? Go get the numbers.
I'm getting the numbers.
He's allegedly supposed to not have his fingers in the pie no more, but you like,
he does, as far as I know, no.
He's supposed to not, but like it feels like the spirit of Dado has reinvested himself in whoever is in that seat now. Yeah, he's sat in that seat so long, his aura just fucking soaked into it, and whoever's there now, I can't.
I thought that my understanding is that he still has the same position. That nothing has changed. That's my understanding.
2020, he started 2020 to 2024.
2020, you say?
Yamato, when did you start?
2021.
2021 to beginning of 2023, right? End of 2022.
So basically 2021 was my first year, and then I did 2022 and then 2023. Because even 2023, if we isolate that year, right? Yeah. If it wasn't for Rogue doing one of the worst deals of all time, like if we make a tier list of like the worst trade deals of all time, it's going to be like Russia sold Alaska to America for $3 or whatever the fuck it was. Like, and then next to it is gonna be Advien for Trimby, like if it wasn't, because keep in mind, even that year in winter, Upset was on the bench, not playing. They didn't go playoffs with Humanoid, Razork, and they didn't continue with Hilly. Hilly moved to Mad Lions, and they went with Rux, right? And Rux and Reckless. Imagine you bring back Reckless to pair him with Rux at the time, which didn't make any fucking sense. And then, of course, in winter, they didn't make playoffs. And already, the fact that I'm getting message during that and say, yo, you want to come back to coach the team? It's like all the players are asking for you to come back. They wanted to work with you. And I knew that the players wanted to work with me, but they made a decision that just was so, out there. And maybe if that whole year went to shit earlier, maybe people would have been fired and maybe things would have gone better. But somehow Rogue gave them Trimby. They found Noah and they managed to make top 2 with, of course, I don't remember if this was the year or the next year happened when Oscarini broke his fucking hand and Wunder came through.
It was that year. It was 23. I
like,
remember because I was in Montpellier.
And it's like Wunder came through, right? Wunder came through and popped off. And maybe if they didn't make Worlds and didn't solve that disaster of a year, which was fake in some senses, because the finding of Trimby there was such a pure luck thing that maybe Fnatic would have been imploded earlier and they would have had to rebuild and restructure earlier, because that carried the next 2 years of cope of Fnatic making it to finals and then not beating G2 just because of that little cosm right there, like Rogue giving away Trimby, which is crazy. Which is just crazy how much luck Fnatic went on there.
Speaking of poor trade deals, why the fuck did they let go of Poby, man? This is going to bug me until the end of time. Like in an immediate
free agency goes both ways. Free agency goes both ways.
I know.
That's what I'm saying.
Maybe Poby just wanted we know. I don't think we ever heard any story of just oh, by the way, now Vladdy's on Fnatic and Poby is not on Fnatic, right? And once obviously he's in Europe, he's got his visa. He can join whatever team he wants. But yeah, just if I'm Fnatic GM and I see the impact that Poby has on that lineup and how he's playing with Rezork in that split, whatever you want, bro, you've got it. Stay, dog. It never really, it never clicked for me why that move happened. Unless again, Poby smelled something was wrong and decided to cut it short.
I'm pretty sure that Fnatic chose to just move on to Vladdy.
Exactly.
Because I can rationalize the angle, because they were hoping that Vladdy is going to be the next generational bit talent. And I think that Poby, albeit he was good and decent, I think they're just aiming for more, just based on what Vladdy showed at his peaks during his first year in KC, which I can rationalize. I can see that angle. I don't think that's crazy, because players like that have paid off, players like that haven't paid off, and Fnatic need a franchise mid laner that they know can compete against the best. And now, for example, Poby on Navi had a very good first split, but now he's not performing so hot. I don't rate Poby as highly as you do, even though I appreciated him as a player when he was on Fnatic.
I think also it shows how Fnatic looked at the environment that KC had. They were like, we can fix him. And it's like, well, the guy that you have the ghost right there. Just give him some time and he'll turn back into the ghost. But they're like, no, this guy's already here. As pretty hilarious stuff. Actually, we've got some breaking news. Let's read it real quick.
What's happening, bro?
Heretics have come on down with a roster change. Yesterday, the coaching staff met with the players to evaluate recent performances and establish how to move forward for the rest of the season. Today, and following that meeting, I don't know why it's both there, Sheo Boril has been informed by the coaching staff of his wish to step down to the bench immediately. Coaching staff accepted his request. As a result, we announced that our player Casper Douglas Dagil will be joining the LEC roster effective immediately. Obviously, Douglas spent 2 seasons representing Heretics Academy in Superliga and the LES, winning a Superliga Liga title with us, reaching EMEA finals. He'll play today's LES match, then travel to Berlin to join the team. We'd like to thank him for his availability. The starting roster for the remainder of the LEC split will be Trayson Douglas, Saren Ice, and Way Vamos Heretics. A big statement, I think, really official because it needs to, so that the sponsors stay happy. But basically, Sheo steps down. Well, quick hits here, quick thoughts here. Let's start with you, Yamato, and then we'll go to Jamada.
I looking at Team Heretics. I do think that in terms of how their macro has changed and what was their strongest point, I do think that it was always Stand and Sheo, how they work together. I thought that their jungle support synergy was better than some of the better teams, just that they didn't have the right players in their carry roles, and I thought that was something that they improved. And this year looked like, of course, something that they built on. and the massive risk of going for Misa's bot lane, albeit they are really fucking good, is that you are breaking up that synergy, and you are doing that in the middle of the year. And in my mind, I think that even in the last split that Sten played, I did think that I thought his split was fine. I didn't think like it was something that was so alarming. So I just assumed it was something maybe internal or whatever. But you can see the short-term cost of that. I don't think that Team Heretics have the same sharpness in terms of how they move on the map. I don't think that they have the same level of synergy with the jungle. And Team Heretics have had to kind of work from scratch. And considering the statement is that that Sheo informed the staff that he wants to step down, that wording is what is so unique here. It wasn't like a unanimous decision or the coaching staff stepped in and thought that Douglas was going to be better and she was just underperforming. He requested this. And that's where like the conspiracy theory brain begins to play tricks on you and begins to tell you things about what is going on and not going on, because maybe he was in disagreement about the removal of Stand. And then maybe now as well, it's kind of strange to think about Ice being probably the best performing player and knowing that he's not going to play Summer because it's been promised that Hype plays that. Even though I respected the aggressiveness of that move, and I think that that bot lane is really, really good, it did come with a lot of risk, and maybe that's the risk that is coming back to haunt them now.
Yeah, Douglas getting some games on Vitality, obviously earlier in his career, now back into the spotlight. Jamada.
Yeah, I mean you'd have to dig pretty far back into the annals of memory, but when Douglas came in, that LEC split, and it was very brief. He worked better with that lineup than Bo did somehow, and I think that's definitely one thing. Weirdly, I've always had Douglas on my radar. He's a very unique player. He plays a lot of different from the ERL days, from like 21, I think. He used to play in like the Greek league. I think it was it's like the emblem was like a phoenix, Famagusta, an Orthosis. An Orthosis Famagusta. And so he's a very, very unique player. He plays a lot of weird shit. So very flexible to any given meta. But that's on that playstyle, like individual playstyle level, how much is that useful to this Heretics team right now? With the solo laners that they have right now. You know?
Yeah, Viego,
like
Bel'Veth, Kane, some of his top played champions.
There you go.
That doesn't sound like this meta.
No. I think that'll be the champions he likes to play, like in solo queue and stuff like that from his infancy and in career. But in terms of what Yamato was saying about the built synergy between Stend and Sheo, I think is someone on an individual level. If you're a watcher of the LEC, you probably have a fair amount of respect for Sheo and his ability to lead teams over the years. Oh, and in oftentimes in sinking ships, right? But for Sheo to come to the staff and say, because it's the wording of that statement. Sheo is the one that's requested this. It's not the coaching staff. It's not any kind of outside pressure. Sheo has requested this. I think it says a lot. I think about the circumstances internally, maybe that they are potentially dealing with, and Sheo might just be tired. Who knows? Like it can get like that when you're a compare, depending on how things are going. Different people are more or less resilient to different kinds of adversity you can face in competition. So we'll see how this shakes up. I can only really, not to slander Douglas, but I can only see this in the immediate future being a negative change. Not because I think Douglas is bad, but I just think that coming into a sinking ship like this, or a ship that's not got wind in its sails, it's going to be difficult to really see some kind of real formation of a squad here in the immediate future, which then means you're looking towards summer. But summer is a split where you already want to be off the mark and running. So What are we? Team Heretics is for we're doing long-term projects, guys. Long-term projects, right? That's what we want out of our rosters. It all goes back to that statement again.
Just as an additional note, sorry, just the fact that they have also in the statement said that it's going to be for the remainder of the split, so no changes. Like making that big of a commitment is also like telling. And maybe if something is going to happen, maybe there's like one of those double lift moves, you know, where Sheo said spring split doesn't matter, and then he's going to do a back alley deal to join Shifters again and reunite with his boys for 200k, because that's what Shifters spend on their junglers. Boom.
Damn, Shifter's just getting astray out here.
That was
Yamato,
the direct bullet, bro. Fucking 200k for Pukara. Come on now.
come on now. All right.
on now.
Well, love it when we have the opportunity to break news here. So, pretty cool catch by Jamada as that drops. Roster
That's just
move
scrolling
for
Twitter.
Heretics.
I opened
Just shut up.
Twitter as the top post.
I'm just joking
Top
with you, bro.
I know.
I'm mining and doing herbalism in World of Warcraft while we're talking, so it's just good for my brain. I'm sorry.
All right, here we go. Before we close out this episode and drop in a new segment, we're going to get graphics for it next time. It's time to remind you about our friends over at Manta Sleep. Now, y'all, sleep is important. It's important for you to get your energy, to lose weight, feel rested for the next day. And you know what stops that? Light. Light messes you up. When the sun hits your face, damn, I wake up. I can't stay asleep. Boom. Not anymore, thanks to our friends over at Manta with the Manta Sleep Mask Pro. It blocks 100% of light, no distractions, just real quality sleep. Now it comes with 100% true blackout, blocks all light, even around the nose and the sides for complete coverage and complete darkness. See these bad boys? This is the reason why. The adjustable eye cups, soft memory foam cups that can be positioned to fit your face perfectly without any eye pressure is true. And also, bam, I didn't break it. It's Velcro. Slap. My face is a little wide, so I got to make the space there. These cups are made with breathable, cooling materials, ventilated, sweat-resistant fabrics to keep you cool and comfortable all night. I use it every night. Also, one of the cool features, boom, little Bluetooth earpiece joint right here. They've got little Bluetooth speakers on the side of it, so you can connect it to your phone. You know what I've been doing? Connect to my phone, put the sleep timer on, boom, pass out after probably about like 3 to 5 minutes, maybe like a loop and a half, and then I'm out. Thanks to my friends over at Manta Sleep. So you can head on over to mantasleep.com, use the code LFN at checkout to unlock 10% off your purchase. That's MANTASLEEP.com with code LFN for 10% off your purchase. We love giving you items that we use in our daily life. Can't recommend this more. Thanks to our friends over at Manta Sleep. All right, it's time for the new segment. We're calling it He Is Him. There are hundreds of players that put their blood, sweat, tears, effort on the line to prove that they are the best in the world and have the opportunity to win that elusive world championship, win that prestigious league championship. And so I wanted to create a segment that shouts out the ones that do it that week. Because not everyone can win world championship. Not everyone can win an LEC title, LCK title, LPL title, LCS title, CBLOL title. LCP title, sorry, LCP. So let's give the shout out. The He Is Him. He is him this week. And so I ask you two gentlemen, and I will throw mine in there, on who is your He Is Him of the week. Are you ready? Who's ready?
I'm ready.
I'm ready.
Jamada, you go first then. Boom. That's what I like to see. I'm starting to get tired because I'm just saying boom all the time. Boom.
Clean, easy. Some maybe a bit annoyed with not necessarily finding maybe a niche pick, but it's Lyncas, man. Lyncas this weekend had he had a barn burner. He really went hard in the paint this weekend. single-handedly kept the ship afloat, yes, versus a very dysfunctional Shifters. But Vitality historically have been very privy to losing bullshit games like that, right? Losing series where they need important wins. And Lyncas was the guy that kept everything afloat pretty much from start to finish in the series, to be honest with you. But particularly the Aatrox game in game 3, where for a moment you thought to yourselves, okay, it's time to throw the series. It's we're 1-1. We've already dropped a game 1. Right? It's time to lose it wholesale. Lyncas kept them in the boat and kept the water out, which was very impressive. And then even in the G2 series, where I think you can probably say maybe NaKaNako had a slightly more impressive performance overall inside of that series. I feel like, well, he was the second most valuable player in that series. It was still Lyncas. So for me, I think it's very apparent the level of play from Vitality has gone up, but I think so much of it is just being driven right now through the solo lanes, but also Lyncas as an additional, kind of cylinder in the engine of whether it's driving home very, very harsh jungle matchups to be very, very one-sided, or whether it's just supplementing, lane leads already, right? I think he's one of the most creative pathers in the league right now. And I don't really see that changing anytime soon if I'm to know, Lyncas the player, but also Pad the coach. I think we've had a lot of criticism for Pad, especially with the drafting, and I think this weekend it got a lot better overall. I was a lot more impressed with their drafting. I think that was also reflected in the picks that Lyncas ended up in their matchups versus G2 and versus Shifters.
I'm interested here, and maybe you can help me out, Yamato. But am I wrong to think that Fleshy was a he is him candidate in that series? Like, I thought Fleshy played out of his fucking mind. And remember, this is a guy who had to suffer playing on Immortals. He has eternal scars that he battles every time he logs into the server. But I digress. We'll go with Lyncas. That is Jamada's pick. Yamato, who is your he is him this week?
I need to think, like we're talking about since we did the episode, right? That's what we called this week.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I don't know. I'm thinking in terms of the easy one is always BDD. NaKaNako has made made a habit for himself of smurfing, so it's like just kind of easy to point him out. Like he's solo killing BB, he's playing Camille, he's doing crazy shit. We have like 3 top laners in the world that are doing their demon shit on demon hours. We got Ben, we got NaKaNako, we got Zeus over in the LCK. But if I'm going to throw, something more unique, because these are names that is on everyone's tongue, rightfully so, I would just say I think that top esports, in terms of what they are and what they've become, like I didn't expect them to hit the ground running at all. Like I thought they were gonna suffer. I do think that Cream is the one that is holding up the basis for them. But I think what Tian did in some of these series in order to really, really get them going, I think Tian has been a hero for top esports. I think top esports wouldn't be on the map if it wasn't for some of these clutch angles that he's found. And actually, I didn't think top esports would be relevant at all after their horror start. And I think Tian is a very crucial part of that. So shout out to Tian. He is him.
I want to give an honorary as well. And it's funny because you picked Tian, and Tian did a lot of driving in against the player I'm about to mention, but Gen.G, just very specifically for the AL series, I haven't seen many cases of. Well, it was a coordinated effort, but Gen.G against Tarzan in the AL series on Friday was very, very, very creative. I mean, the entire game plan from JDG was to basically just kneecap Tarzan's ability to do anything, and a lot of that was driven through Gen.G and very, very intelligent pathing. But again, then came the top esports series, so it is what it is. But for me, that was one of the rare cases where I looked at a team and went, okay, wow, like actual full focus through the jungle. This is very impressive stuff, and Gen.G really took advantage of what he was not only given by his team, but the matchups that he had, and abusing Tarzan very, very aggressively.
All right. I like those. I will go last, and I will throw mine in here just because it is well known, if you've watched this broadcast and watched any of our podcasts, that I am a hater of this player. I do not like this player because he makes me mad. I felt like he was holding his team back last year. I felt like the other player that he replaced was better than him. And then he gets carried all the way to the World Finals by Cuz and BDD. And this year he has warped the meta. He's been given the ball to play the carry champions, and he has stuffed bodies. Stuffed bodies. Game after game. Yes, I'm talking about Perfect. It's fucking nuts that I'm giving Perfect his praise, but he's earned it from this hater. He played Vayne, Yorick, and fucking Neferi top. Yes, it got played in the LPL earlier, but we hadn't seen it in the LCK. And he was like, yes, play me that. They could be playing Varus. They could be playing whoever top. Give me Neferi. Plays Neferi. Gets stuffed in the lane in game 3. We're like, ah, shit, what an idiot. Perfect's getting killed again. And stays resilient, as he always does. And he's the instrument that effort on Lulu uses to get to the back line, pop up the Aphelios, and there's no counterplay to it. He just holds the back line, boop, pops up, and they eventually win this barn burner of a series against D plus Kia. I thought you were taking it, Yamato. When you were like, oh, you could go Cuz, you could go BDD, I was like, shit. Does that mean I have to give it to, I don't know, Griffin or something?
Can't give it to Cuz. Loki's been griefing, by the way. Like, I think he's been getting away with murders, bro. But yo, Cuz has been doing some dumb shit. I'm hungry, bro. Do some nice.
Perfect is him,
bro. Perfect is him.
Perfect is him. He continues to do it. KT roster, undefeated. Get excited. They are legit. Just like this episode has been legit. Thank you all so much for watching. Thanks to all of our sponsors. If you haven't already, like and subscribe here at Last Free Nation. And we'll see you next week for more coverage in the global scheme of League of Legends. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.